Oral questions. Question orale. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, last fall, Conservatives asked the Prime Minister what he was going to do to protect the thousands of jobs related to the Keystone XL pipeline. The Prime Minister's answer was that he called President Biden. Those workers deserved better than one phone call leading to pink slips. Why did the Prime Minister bet the jobs of thousands of Canadians on a single phone call to the President?
Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, that's simply not the case. From the very beginning, we have been there to support oil and gas workers across the country, including in Alberta and Saskatchewan. That's why 7 years ago, when I was a mere leader of the third party in the House of Commons, I went down to Washington to advocate for the Keystone XL pipeline to a room full of American Democrats to talk about the interconnectedness of our energy security, but also to advocate for more leadership on climate change. Over the past 5 years, we've demonstrated that investing in oil and gas and fighting climate change can go together.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
I'd like to thank the Prime Minister for confirming he's had no success with the U.S. relationship for 7 years. The government's response since the Americans decided to kill Keystone has been complete surrender. Canadians are being told it was a campaign promise the Liberals didn't want to interfere with. The Liberals are now telling Canadians just to move on. Is this the kind of mail-it-in effort from this Prime Minister we're going to get when hundreds of thousands of Canadians are worried about their economic future?
Honourable Prime Minister.
How quickly the Leader of the Opposition forgets that the past 4 years were characterized by this government consistently standing up for Canadians right across the country, whether it be protecting supply management, whether it be protecting the cultural exemption, whether it be protecting our steel and aluminum workers, whether it's moving forward on defending Canadian interests against the previous administration, or working hand in hand on both fighting climate change and creating new jobs with this current administration. We will stay focused on sticking up for Canadians every step of the way.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Well, in just a few days, he's already lost thousands of jobs in both Canada and the U.S. from inaction, Mr. Speaker. We also know on vaccines, the government was talking to Pfizer last fall about logistics. They've known for months there were going to be problems with production. They didn't plan for it. This week, Mr. Speaker, there'll be no deliveries of the Pfizer vaccine. Next week, our order has been cut by 86%, more than any other country. Why are Canadians always paying for this Prime Minister's failure to act quickly?
Mr. Speaker, from the very beginning, we knew that there would be challenges with the global supply chains around vaccines as they were developed, which is why we set out and succeeded in signing more contracts with more different companies for more doses per Canadian than in any other country in the world. We know that momentary delays are happening on Pfizer, but we will be receiving hundreds of thousands of doses later in February, and we are still on track to vaccinating over 3 million Canadians by the end of Q1, and everyone who wants it by September.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Monsieur le Président, 18%.
Mr. Speaker, 18% of vaccine deliveries have been cut in Canada. This week, no vaccine delivery. No distribution plan. Delays in delivery. Canadians are worried. The Prime Minister must act now. When will this Liberal government take action to increase vaccine availability? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, we are continuing to communicate with all the vaccine companies because we have signed more contracts with more vaccine companies for more vaccine doses than any other country. We are disappointed in the delays with Pfizer, but we are continuing to receive Moderna deliveries, and we are continuing to work with other companies to bring vaccines to Canada more quickly. I can assure Canadians that we will continue to hit our objective of getting 3 million or more Canadians vaccinated by the end of March.
De doses, Monsieur le Président.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition. More doses, Mr. Speaker? Well, there will be 0 doses next week during the middle of a pandemic. There is a real problem in vaccine availability in Canada. Long-term care and seniors' residences are not receiving vaccines. This is a crucial juncture for all Canadians, and yet this week, 0 vaccines, Mr. Speaker. Why are we always behind when it comes to vaccines and other health measures during this pandemic? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. I understand the Honourable Leader of the Opposition's concern with scoring political points, but we must not deliberately mislead Canadians. We will continue to receive Moderna doses. Yes, there is a temporary interruption in Pfizer deliveries, but we will continue to work closely with the company to ensure that we receive more doses in a few weeks when their factory is once again producing. We will be able to vaccinate everyone by September. We will be able to meet our end of March goal. The Honourable Member for Belleuil-Chambly. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I am pleased to hear the Prime Minister say that we must not mislead people. Perhaps he should follow his own advice. We learned in La Presse that Quebec is going to have to delay vaccination of people's parents and grandparents because there are delays in the Pfizer deliveries. And that comes on top of the delays already announced in mid-January. And the amount was already too low. I would like to hear from the Prime Minister himself, how many vaccines will he be receiving from Pfizer this week? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. As we told the provinces a few weeks ago, there is an interruption in Pfizer's deliveries because Pfizer is retooling its Belgian factory. We will receive hundreds of thousands of doses in a few weeks. There is an interruption right now, which is why it's a good thing that we negotiated agreements with several companies, because we will continue receiving doses from Moderna and we will continue to work with Pfizer and others to deliver the maximum amount of doses as quickly as possible. The Honourable Member for Belleuil-Chambly. Well, I see that the answer is 0 vaccines from Pfizer delivered, Mr. Speaker. I'd like the Prime Minister to tell seniors in Quebec that this interruption is a good thing. Now, when it comes to improving the taxation system for businesses, and when it comes to price fixing of drugs in Canada, there was some remarkable information heard at the committee about this. Is the Prime Minister concerned that Pfizer is requesting tax advantages in Canada at the same time as it's not delivering vaccines? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, the good news is that we negotiated with various different companies. Just in case there was an interruption like this one, that's the good news. We had a strong negotiating plan. Once again, we see that the leader of the bloc is grazing a conspiracy theory attitude with the different issues that he's raising. We have a plan to vaccinate everyone by September, and we will deliver on that. The Honourable Member for Burnaby South. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We have lost more than 19,000 people to COVID-19. That includes frontline workers and seniors. Families are mourning. Why doesn't this Prime Minister take action? Why doesn't this Prime Minister make sure that everyone gets vaccinated? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, the leader of the NDP is the one who's talking about elections. We are focused on vaccinating Canadians. That is why we're working closely with provinces as well to protect seniors to work on standards for long-term care. We are working with the Red Cross and the Canadian Armed Forces to protect seniors. We will continue to focus on what Canadians want, which is to deliver the help that Canadians need. We have promised to be there for everyone, just as long as that's necessary, and that is what we are going to do.
Member for Burnaby South.
Mr. Speaker, we have lost over 19,000 Canadians to COVID-19. Now that's a staggering number, but it's not just a number. These are real people. People like Yassine Dabe, a 19-year-old Syrian refugee who fled war but ended up losing his life to COVID-19 while working in a long-term care center, a for-profit long-term care center. Now, why is this Prime Minister spending time preparing for an election when he should be spending all of his time protecting Canadians by making sure everyone has access to a vaccine?
Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, we made a promise to Canadians that we would have their backs, whatever it took, as long as it takes to get through this pandemic, and that is what we are focused on. I'll allow the leader of the NDP to talk about elections all he wants. Our focus is on delivering for Canadians and supporting Canadians through the tragedies and the incredible heroics we're seeing on display right across the country from our frontline workers. There are far too many tragedies, but we know that Canadians are continuing to be there for each other, and this government will continue to be there for them.
Honourable Member for Calgary Nose Hill.
I'd like to check the Prime Minister's math, Mr. Speaker. He said every adult would be vaccinated by September, which is 32 weeks away, and all the leading COVID-19 vaccines require 2 doses. There are approximately 30 million adults in Canada, and under 2% have received a single dose so far. This means Canada, on average, needs to be administering roughly 2 million doses per week to meet this goal. This week's total is 0. How the hell did this happen, and what are the Liberals doing to fix it?
I know everyone's been away for a while, and the parliamentary language is something that we tend to forget, so I just want to remind everyone that certain words do rank as unparliamentary, and I know it was a slip-up, so I know it wasn't anything planned. The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, there is no question that we share the urgency of Canadians to obtain vaccines as soon as possible. With more than 1.1 million vaccines distributed across this country to date, we are on track to have 3 million Canadians vaccinated by the end of March, and all Canadians who wish to be vaccinated will have access to a vaccine before the end of September 2021. Mr. Speaker, we are on track with our strategy. This is a temporary interruption, and we will make sure we deliver for Canadians because nothing is more important. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Calgary Nose Hill.
I'd like to take a moment to congratulate Romania, Poland, Italy, Spain, the Czech Republic, France, and other countries for receiving doses from Pfizer this week, and to their governments who negotiated more favorable terms with drug companies than Canada's procurement minister. And we know why the procurement minister won't release the details of these contracts, and it's because she executed a terrible deal. What are the Liberals doing to fix their deadly screw-ups and get us vaccines?
The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, on the contrary, we secured under 7 APAs the largest number of doses per capita of any country in the world. We also made sure not to put all our eggs in one basket so that in case there are interruptions in the supply chain, we will be able to draw on other companies' deliveries. So to that end, we will be receiving over 300,000 doses from both Pfizer and Moderna next week alone. We will have 6 million doses in this country before the end of March. And then going on through the rest of the year, we will see millions and millions of more vaccines.
The Honourable Member for Calgary Nose Hill.
Well, I would argue that this week Canada is receiving the lowest per capita amount of vaccines because we're receiving 0. 0 is 0. It's not something that's there. I don't know why the procurement minister doesn't understand that. We don't have the same favorable terms as other countries do, and that is her fault. It's the Prime Minister's fault. So just not having a plan isn't going to cut it. What is this government going to do to get us vaccines now?
The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, it is inaccurate to say that we do not have a plan. On the contrary, we have secured more vaccines per capita than any other country in the world. We will see 20 million vaccines coming in from Pfizer and Moderna alone in Q2, and we will see 70 million vaccines coming in from these countries prior to the end of September. That's a plan, Mr. Speaker, and we are on track. Thank you.
L'honorable député de Charlebourg-Haute-Saint.
The honourable member for Charlebourg-Haute-Saint-Charles. Mr. Speaker, Maccabee Healthcare Services, an Israeli healthcare provider, reported that there was a decrease of 60% in COVID infections 3 weeks after the administration of the first vaccine. But here in Canada, our economy is drowning, and people are isolated and are suffering because this Prime Minister has failed in negotiating with vaccine producers. There are a couple dozen countries, like Denmark and England, who are far beyond Canada when it comes to administering vaccines per capita. Why does this Prime Minister refuse to tell Canadians the truth? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. The Honourable Minister.
Merci pour la question encore. Ce retouillage est...
Mr. Speaker, thank you for the question. This retooling is temporary. Canada is in a great position. Canada received vaccines in December, well before many other countries. And we will continue to vaccinate at least 3 million people by the end of March. Let's not forget that countries like Japan, New Zealand, Australia, South Korea have not yet begun vaccinating, not at all. The honourable member. Mr. Speaker, the Minister has given us examples of countries that are not doing as well as Canada, but why not instead look at countries that are doing better than us? We are the 24th out of the leading countries when it comes to vaccines per capita. From the beginning, we've seen that there have been issues with contract management, and now we're seeing the facts. When will this government finally admit that it did not negotiate the contracts well? The Honourable Minister. Mr. Speaker, there are no issues with the contracts, not at all. We share Canadians' sense of urgency when it comes to accessing these indispensable vaccines as quickly as possible. With more than 1.1 million vaccines distributed throughout the country to date, Canada is in the top 5 countries out of the G20 for COVID-19 vaccination levels. Our government is in charge of this file, and we will continue to work hard until the job is done. The honourable member for Charlebourg-Haute-Saint-Charles. 5th country out of the G20, but 24th when it comes to all countries. Look at even countries like the Seychelles are doing better than Canada. We've been seeing for a long time that there has been issues with contracts, and now we're seeing what's happened. This week, there won't be any vaccine doses. That just doesn't make sense for a country that claims to have the best portfolio in the world. What we want is facts. And what would really show us that things are going well is to actually have vaccines. Can the Minister confirm that someone is in charge in this government and that we will get vaccines? The Honourable Minister.
I want to begin by saying cette situation est tout à fait temporaire.
This situation is entirely temporary. We are working hard to put vaccines into the arms of each and every Canadian who chooses to receive the vaccine. Canada remains in a great position. It is among the 5 top countries in the G20 in respect to per capita vaccine levels. We will meet our goals by the end of March, and by the end of the first half of the year, we will have met our goals. The Honourable Member for Belleuil-Chambly. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. This government seeks to prevent Quebecers and Canadians from leaving the country. For months, various measures have been proposed to meet that goal, and if this government weren't so stubborn, those measures could already be in place. This government also stated that it would ensure that companies receiving assistance would reimburse airplane tickets. Many of these companies have received assistance. Will this government force air transport companies to reimburse air tickets for trips that have since been cancelled?
Mr. Speaker, we are aware how frustrating the situation is for Canadians. We are very much supportive of our airline industry and our sector. We are working currently, discussions are ongoing with the airline sector to prepare a support package, but rest assured, Mr. Speaker, that no support package will happen without refunds for passenger and without support for our regional routes. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
L'honorable député de Pierre Boucher, les Patriotes Verts.
The honourable member for Pierre Boucher, Patriotes Verchères. Now, Mr. Speaker, while this government is twiddling its thumbs, millions of people are losing their jobs. And today we got the first court ruling that states that these companies need to pay back the money. Now this government, this prime minister is constantly preaching to Quebec during his press conferences outside his home. But he's not doing anything. What is he doing to prevent people from leaving the country? Nothing. What is he doing to make sure that people respect quarantine? Nothing. What is he doing to prevent foreign variants from arriving in Canada? Nothing. When is this government going to act? The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, we are, as I mentioned earlier, we're very much aware of the situation. We are considering all options. But let me remind you, Mr. Speaker, and remind my colleague, since March of 2020, we've advised all Canadians to avoid unnecessary or non-essential international travel. We've put extra measures in place. We've banned foreigners who are traveling to Canada for non-essential purposes. We've also implemented pre-departure testing to ensure that all arrivals to Canada are tested for COVID before arrival.
De Pierre Boucher, les Patriotes.
The honourable member for Pierre Boucher, Patriotes Verchères. Mr. Speaker, this government is still trying to fix problems that ultimately originated before the holidays. 1 month later, this government still hasn't done anything to check that people are respecting quarantine or to prevent unnecessary travel. It's been a month since the UK alerted the planet to a new deadly variant of COVID. And yet, Ottawa did nothing to close the borders. And Ontario has been struck by another immense outbreak in a seniors' residence. Everyone is asking the federal government to restrict travel. When will the government act?
Sir.
Mr. Speaker, every step of the way, we have used science and evidence to advise our country on how best to respond to COVID-19 from those very early days where we were undertaking screening at the border to increasing measures to ban foreign nationals, to ask Canadians to forego non-essential travel. We have some of the strictest measures in the world, Mr. Speaker, a 14-day quarantine that is enforced and is enforceable by all provinces, territories, and indeed local police officers. We need to work together, Canadians, provinces, territories, indeed enforcement, to make sure that people adhere to quarantine. And in fact, Canadians largely are. We'll continue that work. And as my colleagues have said, no option.
The honourable member for Battleford's Lloydminster.
Mr. Speaker, protecting our seniors and those who care for them must be a priority. An efficient and timely vaccine rollout for long-term care residents and staff is critical to preventing the deadly outbreaks that we are seeing across the country. But our premiers are now reporting that they have run out of vaccines. With a drop in supply and uncertainty about the schedule moving forward, strong federal leadership is needed. But once again, the Prime Minister is missing in action. Mr. Speaker, when will sufficient doses be available to protect our seniors in long-term care?
Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I share the concern about our long-term care residents. My own father is 90 years old and is also waiting for a vaccine. I am working with my department and the Government of Canada extremely hard every single day to ensure that all Canadians will have access to a vaccine as soon as possible. That is why we are sure that we will receive over 300,000 vaccines next week, and those will be distributed to the provinces and territories. And from there, the vaccines are going to ramp up, and we will see millions and millions of vaccines rolling into this country in the next quarter. Why? Because this...
The honourable member for Barrie Innisfil.
At the height of an unfolding tragedy at Roberta Place Long-Term Care Centre in my riding, our local health unit has effectively run out of vaccines. The shortage is so serious that seniors, their families, PSWs, and frontline healthcare workers have been told that there's no timeline on when to expect their first doses or vital second doses. We've run out of vaccines at the most critical point in this crisis. Minister, what do I tell families who are calling me, some in tears, on when they should expect their vaccines when they know other countries are still getting their vaccines and Canada is not?
Once again, I just want to remind the honourable members to place their questions through the chair, not directly to the person they're asking. The honourable minister.
Thank you for the question. And again, I share the concern about long-term care residents and all people in this country. I will like to say that we have administered less vaccines in this country than we have received. And so there are still vaccines that are being utilized, and we will indeed see vaccines ramping up by the hundreds of thousands in this quarter and by the millions for the rest of the year. We are on track to have vaccines for all Canadians before the end of September. Why? Because we will stop at nothing to ensure that all Canadians have an access to vaccine this year. That's our promise, and that's what we are working on.
The honourable member for York Simcoe.
Mr. Speaker, residents of the Eldon of Bradford and York Simcoe were supposed to be getting their vaccines last week, but their vaccination clinics were cancelled, and residents are now being told they will have to wait until the end of February because of Canada's shortage of the Pfizer vaccine. With outbreaks in long-term care homes on the rise again, these delays are unacceptable and deadly. Not enough is being done to protect our most vulnerable. Why is the Prime Minister failing to show leadership to ensure that Canada has the vaccines needed to protect our citizens?
Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, again, I would like to thank the honourable member for the question. I will say that Ontario has reported about 100,000 doses which have not been utilized as of yet. Therefore, the claim that the province has run out is simply inaccurate. I will say that doesn't take away from the importance of continuing to receive vaccines into this country, and we will continue to do that. 300,000 plus next week, building up over the first trimester, and then going on into the rest of the year. This is our goal, Mr. Speaker, and we have the most number of doses per capita of any country in the world, and that strategy is still on track for this country.
The honourable member for Vancouver Kingsway.
Mr. Speaker, a scathing internal audit has exposed disarray and chaos at the Public Health Agency of Canada. The audit notes limited public health expertise at senior levels. It found a lack of emergency response capacity, and it even revealed that incorrect information was being fed to Canada's chief public health officer. Today, as Canada's vaccine deliveries shift from week to week, it appears many of these problems remain unresolved. How does the minister explain this appalling state of affairs, and can she assure Canadians that these serious gaps are being addressed?
Honourable Minister.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. And I will say that every step of the way, Canada's response has been based on science and evidence. And I want to thank Dr. Tam for her excellent leadership during this time. I will also thank the Public Health Agency of Canada employees who have worked so hard on behalf of Canadians all across this country. And we will continue to spare nothing to ensure the agency has what it needs to continue to deliver for Canadians.
The honourable member for Winnipeg Centre.
Mr. Speaker, prior to Christmas, cases of trench fever were found in my riding. This is a disease of extreme poverty. That is abhorrent, and it is a result of the long-standing lack of investment. Our frontline organizations have the ability to address the needs of our community, but often lack the resources to respond and provide care for individuals in need. We need help now. Will this government commit to making additional investments in frontline organizations in my riding of Winnipeg Centre so that individuals can stay safe from this current health crisis?
Honourable Minister.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker. And every step of the way, we've worked closely with provinces and territories on our COVID-19 response, including the challenges that many organizations are facing in caring with some of the most vulnerable. I continue to have those conversations with health ministers, including the minister from the member's province, and will continue to ensure that the provinces have what they need as they face this crisis and all of the circumstances that it causes along with it.
Honourable Member for Scarborough Agincourt.
Mr. Speaker, today marks 1 year since first COVID-19 case was identified in Canada. Since then, the virus has drastically changed our ways of life as we have all taken unprecedented measures to stop the spread of the virus. Since the start of the pandemic, the federal government has been there to support the provinces and territories combat the virus, especially in the harder hit provinces of Ontario and Quebec. Can the Minister of Health update this House on what steps our government has taken to combat the COVID-19 pandemic and keep Canadians safe?
The Honourable Minister of Health.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I thank the member for Scarborough Agincourt for the important question and her incredibly hard work to protect the people in her riding. Together as a nation, we've worked to keep Canadians safe by securing millions of items of PPE, COVID tests, and vaccines with provinces, territories, and Indigenous communities. We've funded the Canadian Red Cross to provide rapid help in hotspots, including in long-term care homes across the country. Our military has helped to ensure that seniors stay safe in some of the hardest hit homes in the provinces of Quebec and Ontario. And we've funded hundreds of millions in research to support our scientists to better understand how to fight this virus. I thank our healthcare heroes, essential workers, and every Canadian for working so hard and sacrificing so much to save lives and protect each other.
The Honourable Member for Wellington Halton Hills.
Mr.
Speaker, the official opposition of Canada has recognized that the Chinese government committed genocide against the Uyghurs and other Turkish Muslims. 2 consecutive American administrations have recognized that genocide, which the new Secretary of State Blinken and new Treasury Secretary Yellen recently confirmed. What is the position of the Government of Canada?
Ministre.
The Honourable Minister. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Canada takes these allegations of genocide extremely seriously. Since the beginning, Canada declared that the international community had to work together in order to investigate the egregious violations of human rights that occurred in Xinjiang. Increasing evidence shows a systemic repression that cannot be ignored. Canada will continue to cooperate with its partners and pressure for an investigation be conducted by an independent international organizations in order to ensure that impartial experts can observe and provide a direct accounting of the situation.
Fort Saskatchewan.
Mr. Speaker, there is absolutely no realistic chance that independent investigators would be allowed into eastern Turkestan. That is merely a delay tactic. Donald Trump and Joe Biden don't agree on much, but both of their administrations have now recognized that Uyghurs and other Turkic Muslims in China are being subject to ongoing genocide. There's no time for more delays or more investigations. These determinations are very clear from our allies and partners. When will the government join the Biden administration and recognize this genocide?
Well, the Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, let me repeat that Canada takes allegations of genocide very seriously. From the beginning, Canada has said that the international community has to work together in order to investigate the egregious human rights abuses taking place in Xinjiang. Mounting evidence of a systematic campaign of repression cannot be ignored. Canada will continue to collaborate with its partners and push for an investigation by an international independent body so that impartial experts can observe and report on the situation firsthand.
The Honourable Member for Sarnia-Lambton.
Mr. Speaker, this government ignored the Vice-Regal Appointments Committee so they could handpick the Governor General. They had, to quote John Ivison of the National Post, a candidate too spectacular to say no to. Turns out the only thing spectacular was the damage the Prime Minister caused with this decision. Will the Prime Minister commit to consulting the opposition and using the Vice-Regal Appointments Committee so that this country's next Governor General doesn't end up in the same spectacle as the last one?
The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, last week, after receiving a report with respect to workplace conditions at Rideau Hall, the Prime Minister accepted the resignation of the Governor General. In the interim, as my colleague knows, the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, Chief Justice Wagner, can ensure all of the constitutional continuity necessary in this role. And the government has made no decisions with respect to the selection or the recommendation of a successor for Her Majesty, and we'll have more to say about that in due course.
The Honourable Member for Louis Saint Laurent. Mr. Speaker, Canada has a vaccine shortage, and its economy is flailing. And now we no longer have a Governor General. There is a single person who is responsible for this. It's the Prime Minister himself. He was the one who decided to throw out the independent committee that we Conservatives created, which would have avoided the problems that we are experiencing. But the Prime Minister decided that he knew what was best for everyone, and he personally decided, without consultations, who it would be with the results that we know. Why did the Prime Minister not do a minimum duty? The Honourable Minister. Mr. Speaker, I want to thank my honourable colleague and friend for the question. As he knows full well, last week the Prime Minister accepted the resignation of the Governor General. In the meantime, the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court will assume these constitutional duties. The government has not yet made a decision with regard to the process or measures that will be necessary with regard to recommending the best person to Her Majesty the Queen. We will have more information to provide at the right time within the next few weeks. The Honourable Member for Beauport-Limoilou. Mr. Speaker, Quebec has mobilized its resources in the healthcare sector to organize a huge vaccine campaign, the biggest in history. But this week, not a single dose of vaccine was delivered, not a single one. Quebec has done everything to vaccinate its population, but Ottawa once again has failed in its responsibility of procuring vaccines for Quebecers. Can the Prime Minister officially guarantee today to Quebec that it will get Pfizer vaccine doses as of next week? The Minister.
Much for the question. I want to reiterate something that I said earlier. The temporary reduction with the Pfizer deliveries will not impact our overall deliveries for the quarter. And indeed, over the next week, we will see 300,000 plus doses arriving starting next week. This will go towards meeting our quarterly goal, which we are on track to meet, of 6 million doses from Pfizer and Moderna into this country, and those will be distributed to all provinces and territories, including Quebec.
The Honourable Member for Beauport-Limoilou. Mr. Speaker, the federal government is unable today to confirm that it will receive Pfizer vaccines next week. Forward-looking government seeks solutions for its population. We know that supply delays with the vaccine Pfizer are due to problems at the production plant in Belgium. Pfizer has another production facility in Michigan. The Prime Minister spoke to the American President Joe Biden on Friday. Did he have the initiative to ask him to intervene with Pfizer to ensure that Canada would get vaccines from Michigan? The Honourable Minister.
Monsieur le Président.
Mr. Speaker, thank you very much for the question. I would like to say that I am in constant contact with our international partners. I am speaking with our ambassadors since this began, and we are open. and we have seized every opportunity to ensure that to work for Canadians. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Mississippi, Churchill River.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. In building the most environmentally friendly pipeline in the world, some First Nations were looking to solve intergenerational poverty in their communities. They were anticipating improvements to education, housing, healthcare, and social programs. It meant real jobs, real growth, real progress, and most importantly, real hope. Mr. Speaker, can the Minister of Indigenous Services tell the House what he has done to advocate for these communities who lost their opportunity to advance towards self-determination when Keystone XL pipeline was cancelled?
Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, as the Prime Minister said directly to the President on Friday, we are disappointed in this decision. And first and foremost, our concern is with the thousands of workers, Indigenous and non-Indigenous, and their families who were impacted by this decision. I spoke to the Alberta Energy Minister the morning of the inauguration. My message to her and to Albertans, as well as to the Minister of Energy for Saskatchewan, was that we would be there to support these workers. We are proud of the work they do. We will need their hard work and ingenuity to lower emissions and keep our oil and gas sector strong and prosperous for years to come. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Battle River Crowfoot.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. About 1,000 people in my constituency lost their jobs Wednesday of last week. After a half-decade of pain in the energy sector, there was finally a glimmer of optimism when work on Keystone XL began. Canada's world-class energy industry has been attacked long enough by this government. My constituents are suffering, and all Canadians are paying the price. Can anybody in this government not just give up and commit to reach across the border to our allies and stand up for the future of these workers and their families?
Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, we are not happy about this decision. We made a strong argument for this project at every level and in every way that we could, from Ambassador Hillman to the Prime Minister. I spoke weekly with Minister Savage and the former member for Edmonton-Leduc, James Rachat, throughout the fall. The governments of Canada and Alberta stood shoulder to shoulder in Washington, virtually, to make the case together. We made the case for Canada, and the President has made a decision to honor his campaign commitment. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Red Deer-Lacombe.
Mr. Speaker, the cancellation of the Keystone XL pipeline is devastating for workers across Canada and especially here in Alberta. This is the second time that a U.S. president has tried to kill this project, and the second time that this Prime Minister has pretended to be disappointed. The left pretends that canceling this project is about the environment. Meanwhile, Russia, Iran, Nigeria, and Venezuela cheer the decision. The job losses that come with this decision aren't pretend jobs. So instead of playing pretend, why doesn't the Prime Minister actually stand up for Alberta, stand up for Canada, and remind the U.S. President who their friends actually are?
Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, the Harper Conservatives had years to get Keystone XL done, and what was their strategy? Nothing. No strategy except throwing public insults, negotiating in the media, and doing nothing to support the thousands of energy workers except beat their chests. We won't take any lessons from that side of the House on getting projects built or supporting energy workers. We need to focus now on the best strategy to get the best outcomes for workers and for the continued competitiveness and prosperity of our oil and gas industry. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for York Centre.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As International Holocaust Remembrance Day falls this week, Jewish communities across Canada are alarmed by rising anti-Semitism and Holocaust denial. The recent desecration of Montreal's Shar HaShamayim synagogue was horrifying, but sadly not surprising to the Jewish community or other faith communities often targeted by hate. Can the Minister of Foreign Affairs tell the House what the government is doing to fight anti-Semitism in Canada and around the world, and honor the memory of the 6 million murdered in the Holocaust?
The Honourable Minister of Foreign Affairs.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I welcome the member from York Centre's question and condemn in the strongest possible terms the despicable anti-Semitic attack that occurred at Shar HaShamayim in my community. Anti-Semitism and Holocaust denial have absolutely no place in our society. This is why Canada has appointed the Honourable Irwin Cotler as Canada's Special Envoy on preserving Holocaust remembrance and combating anti-Semitism to lead this work. I'm confident that as Special Envoy, Mr. Cotler will help advance Canada's efforts to promote Holocaust education, awareness and remembrance, and take meaningful action to combat anti-Semitism at home and abroad.
The Honourable Member for Calgary, Forest Lawn.
The Canadian Federation of Independent Business warned that 1 in 6 businesses are thinking about shutting down permanently. Calgary Forest Lawn is home to the famous International Avenue, where many new Canadians are living their dream of owning their own small business. They are extremely disappointed in this government's lack of an adequate vaccine plan, causing further financial and mental stress. If we hope to have a functioning economy again, we need our small businesses to succeed. Will the minister commit to providing an actual plan instead of a mouthful of platitudes, or will this be another botched job like the vaccine plan?
Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I take issue with the comment that this is a botched vaccine plan. Indeed, we have the highest number of doses per capita of any country in the world. We were one of the first countries to begin vaccinating its citizens, and we've been told by both Pfizer and Moderna at the bargaining table that we were one of the first countries in line with these suppliers. Mr. Speaker, this is a temporary reduction in Pfizer's vaccine shipments. We are on track to have 3 million Canadians vaccinated by the end of the first quarter, and we will have all Canadians access to a vaccine prior to the end of September.
The Honourable Member for Kamloops, Thompson, Caribou.
Mr. Speaker, in the last few weeks, I've met with a number of new small businesses that had the misfortune to open just prior to the pandemic. This includes Ohana Deli and Market in Sun Peaks. In every case, the owner put their heart, soul, and in some cases, life savings into their dreams. These businesses have fallen through the cracks and the government refuses to offer them a lifeline. Can the minister reassure these entrepreneurs she's working on a solution and they will not be left behind?
Honourable Minister.
I would like to thank the Honourable Member for that very important question. It is really important in the massive support programs we have put in place for Canadian businesses, the wage subsidy, the rent subsidy, to also ensure the integrity of those programs. That's something we take very seriously. And with new businesses, there are challenges in doing that. Having said that, I take this question very seriously. It's something I hear about too and I'm concerned with, and it's something we're looking at closely.
L'Honorable.
The Honourable Member for Montmagny, Lille, Kamouraska, Rivière-du-Loup. Mr. Speaker, the economic recovery is about to take a nosedive. The vaccination campaign, which is supposed to be the best way to put an end to the crisis, has just hit a wall. According to the CFIB, 180,000 companies could shutter and 2.4 million additional jobs could be lost, particularly in the arts, culture, tourism, and restoration sectors. What is the government proposing to entrepreneurs to help them hang on for another 8 or 9 months if the majority of the country is not going to get vaccinated before September 2021? The Honourable Minister.
Merci pour la question.
Thank you for that question. And I fully agree that the priority for me as Minister of Finance is to support our companies, particularly small and medium-sized companies. That is why we have put in place extraordinary programs to support them. The wage subsidy program, the rent subsidy program, the additional supports for companies given the new lockdown measures. When it comes to tourism, we announced in November additional supports, and we will continue. The Honourable Member for Brough-Missisquoi. Mr. Speaker, communities across the country are extremely concerned by the rise in Islamophobia, online hate speech, and other forms of discrimination. They have only increased over the course of the pandemic. We have all seen that words can lead to violence. As parliamentarians, we recognize that we each have the duty to lead by example. We must commit to respectful dialogue and be open to debating ideas in order to hear what Canadians think and work for a better society where everybody can reach their potential with dignity. Can the Minister of Canadian Heritage tell the House the work being done by our government to fight against hate speech and online violence? The Honourable Minister of Canadian Heritage. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to thank the member for Brome-Missisquoi for her question. Hate speech has no place in our society. Our government will continue to take ambitious measures to fight against online radicalization and the violence that it can lead to. We recently announced funding to YMCA Canada for their initiative Block Hate in order to fight against cyber violence and online hate speech. This project will look at hate speech trends across Canada and work with experts to develop online tools and training for Canadians.
For Skeena Bulkley Valley.
Mr. Speaker, it's shocking and unacceptable that nearly a year into this pandemic, tens of thousands of Canadians have still not received refunds for flights that were canceled by the airlines. Now the Prime Minister is telling Canadians to cancel any travel plans that they may have booked for this spring. Now, Canadians want to do the right thing and stay home, especially in light of these new strains of the virus. Will the Prime Minister guarantee that Canadians who do as he's asking and cancel their flights will receive full refunds?
Honourable Minister.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. And I want to thank my colleague for the conversation that he and I had last week. I wanted to reach out to him and to all of my critics to ensure that they know that I'm willing to work with them on issues that matter to Canadians. And I thank him for his question. Look, as I said earlier, we're very much aware of the frustrations that many Canadians have because of lack of refund. We, as a government, have already committed to $1.1 billion to support key players such as airport authorities and regional airlines, and discussions are ongoing with airlines to ensure that Canadians get their refund and regional routes are retained.
The Honourable Member for Nanaimo Ladysmith.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The world's ultra-wealthy use Canadian real estate to launder money and evade taxes. At the same time, corporations, numbered companies, hedge funds, and real estate investment trusts are squeezing huge profits from residential properties. As a result, rents are skyrocketing, affordable housing is disappearing, and more Canadians are experiencing homelessness. Will this government introduce strong regulations to stop the predatory activities that are distorting Canada's housing market and making homes unaffordable?
The Honourable Minister.
I would like to thank the member for his really important question. This is an issue our government is absolutely seized with, and that's why in the Fall Economic Statement in November, I announced our plan to introduce a tax-based measure to target specifically the unproductive use of domestic housing in Canada owned by non-resident, non-Canadians. So thank you very much for the question, and it's something we are definitely focused on.